In the late 19th century, freak shows weren't just a form of entertainment. They were a heartbeat of American culture. At that time, there was no Netflix or Instagram for people to turn to for fun, so they gathered at circuses and sideshows to see something extraordinary. These exhibitions featured individuals with rare and peculiar physical traits, often labeled as circus freaks. While that term is considered offensive by today's standards, back then it was common. In this video, we're going to take a closer look at the lives of 15 weirdest circus freaks that actually existed. Number 15. Pascal Pinon. Have you ever heard the phrase, "two heads are better than one"? Well, Pascal Pinon might have had some thoughts on that. A normal railroad worker born in Texas in 1889, Pinon led a modest, uneventful life, until people started noticing what looked like a second head. But this wasn't a medical anomaly. It was actually a massive tumor on his skull, shaped in a way that resembled another face. When a circus promoter, P.T. Barnum, discovered him, a tumor wasn't flashy enough, so he manufactured a very fake backstory. A fake face was painted over the mass, creating the illusion of a second head. Pinon soon became a spectacle, touring with the circus and drawing crowds fascinated by what they thought was a miracle of nature. Years later, a somewhat similar case emerged in China. Chang Tzu-ping had an extra face located on his chin, which was later surgically removed. While Pinon's condition was embellished, his fame proved how easily physical difference can be distorted into myth for public amusement. Number 14. A human horn. Horns are normal on animals, we all know, but on humans they're pure mystery. Throughout history, horned people have appeared in religious myths, medieval art, and even misread translations, like the famous depiction of Moses with horns. But horn growth in humans is real. Among the most unusual cases was a 1930s farmer from China named Wang, who developed a 14-inch horn growing from the back of his skull. It wasn't myth. It was solid keratin, like fingernails, forming an elongated horn-like mass. The bizarre growth caught the attention of Robert Ripley, creator of Ripley's Believe It or Not, who offered Wang money to appear in his shows. Wang declined and disappeared shortly after, adding an air of mystery to an already bizarre case. Other horn growths have been documented medically, but few ever reached Wang's scale or sparked as much fascination. To this day, his story remains one of the rarest examples of naturally occurring horn formation in a human being, wrapped in myth and curiosity. Number 13. George Constantinis. George, better known as the tattooed Greek prince, was born in Albania in 1833 and spoke several languages fluently. A natural explorer, he joined a French-led expedition to Burma, but the journey turned grim when local forces captured them. While most companions were executed, George and two others endured a different fate: a brutal 3-month tattooing ordeal. Nearly 400 intricate designs were carved into his body by Burmese artists. George later claimed it took 4 men to restrain him during the process. Upon his return, scholars examined the symbols inked into his skin, calling them one of a kind. George performed across Europe wearing only undergarments, showcasing his tattoos. In 1875, he reached the U.S., earning $100 a day under P.T. Barnum. Marketed as the Illustrated Man, he astonished American crowds. Eventually retiring to Greece, he slowly lost his eyesight and vanished from public records after 1894, leaving behind one of the most elaborately tattooed and mysterious figures in circus history. Number 12. Life of the Elephant Man. You've likely heard of the Elephant Man, a haunting and unforgettable figure from 19th century England. His real name was Joseph Merrick, and he was born in 1862 with severe progressive deformities that is just hellish. Though never officially diagnosed during his life, Modern experts believe he had Proteus syndrome or possibly neurofibromatosis type 1. His face, limbs, and torso were covered in massive growths, giving him an unusually distorted appearance. Life was brutal. He endured constant physical pain, extreme mobility issues, and deep social isolation. His only option for income was exhibition, where he was renamed Elephant Man and displayed to the public. Everything changed when Dr. Frederick Trevis, a London surgeon, took interest in him. Trevis arranged for Joseph to live at the London hospital, where he finally received compassionate care. Over time, Merrick's story stirred public sympathy, and people saw beyond his condition. Despite immense suffering, Joseph Merrick's life became a symbol of inner strength, human dignity, and the quiet defiance of a man judged by his appearance. Number 11. Lionel the Lionfaced Man. Stefan Bibrowski, better known by his stage name Lionel the Lionfaced Man, was born in 1890 in Poland with hypertrichosis, a rare condition that caused thick hair to grow all over his face and body. Unlike others with the condition, Lionel's hair resembled a lion's mane, which inspired his lasting nickname. He began performing in sideshows as a child, and his unique appearance made him a sensation. Audiences across Europe and the United States were captivated, and Lionel eventually joined Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey. But Lionel was far more than his act. Away from the stage, he was known for his soft-spoken nature, intelligence, and artistic talents. He played the mandolin, read avidly, and enjoyed connecting with people who looked beyond his appearance. While spectators may have come to see a wild man, many left remembering a refined, thoughtful individual. Lionel's story reminds us that spectacle fades, but character, intellect, and kindness always leave a deeper impression. Number 10. Madame Gustika. Gustika became a freak show performer largely due to one unforgettable image: her extended lips wrapped around an 8-inch lip plate, calmly smoking a pipe. Taken in 1930, the photo defined her legacy. But that image, striking as it was, masked the deeper truth. Her lip plates weren't freakish, they were rooted in cultural tradition, likely Ethiopian in origin. She appeared in Coney Island sideshows during the 1930s, long before television, when the working class couldn't afford international travel. Freak shows became windows into distant cultures, even if they were wildly misrepresented. Gustika was wrongly labeled ubangi, or duckbill, exotic terms created to titillate Western viewers. Even the pipe was likely a prop, included to imply she lived normally despite her appearance. The truth is, she reflected practices still observed by the Mursi, Suri, and Makonde people. Today, her photo isn't remembered for shock. It's a reminder of how culture was once distorted for profit. Gustika was never odd. She was misread. Number 9. Petrus Gonsalves. Petrus was born in the 1500s with hypertrichosis, a condition that caused thick hair to cover his entire body. Initially mistaken for an animal, he was locked away in the court of King Henry II, until physicians realized he was no beast, just a child. He was then raised among nobility, receiving a royal education in Latin, warfare, and etiquette. As an adult, he married a woman named Catherine, who wondered whether their children would inherit his traits. Of the 7 they had, 4 were born just as hairy. Known as the hairy family, they were exhibited in royal courts across Europe. Though treated politely, they were never seen as equals. Painted portraits of Petrus and his children circulated widely, sparking fascination. Some believe Petrus inspired the story of Beauty and the Beast, though the folktale itself predates him. Still, his life endures as one of history's most surreal and misunderstood examples of what it meant to be other. Number 8. George Lippard. George Lippard was born in Germany in 1844 with one of the rarest physical anomalies ever recorded: 3 legs and 2 functioning hearts. His third leg, emerging from his right pelvis, was fully formed but partially paralyzed. Lippard claimed both of his hearts were verified by medical exams, though some questioned the accuracy. He launched his sideshow career in the 1860s under the moniker the Three-Legged Man, performing in dime museums and touring with major circuses across the US and Europe. Audiences were fascinated, not just by his unique anatomy, but by his composed manner and storytelling skills. He explained his condition with clarity and dignity, never relying on exaggeration or shock. As more extreme performers emerged, Lippard's fame declined. Eventually, he lost his third leg to gangrene, and in 1906, he died impoverished and largely forgotten. Though he passed without fanfare, George Lippard's story stands as one of the most fascinating and human examples of rare physiology in sideshow history. Number 7. Alberta Caris. Alberta Caris, promoted as Adam and Eve, became one of the most iconic performers in early 20th century freak show history. Thought to be intersex, or possibly a female impersonator named Harry Caro, Caris performed in vaudeville houses, dime museums, and traveling exhibitions throughout the 1920s. Posters showed Caris with both male and female characteristics, sometimes split vertically, one half in a suit, the other in a dress. Touring alongside legend Bobby Reynolds, Caris headlined shows at Hubert's Museum in Times Square and the Loew's Theater Circuit. A known pamphlet measured 11 by 17 inches, folded to 8.5 by 11 inches, featuring Caris's image and a brief bio. Though facts were often exaggerated, Caris left a lasting impression. Their act explored gender ambiguity in a time when difference was exploited for shock value. Very little documentation survives, but the mystery surrounding Alberta still lingers. Number 6. The Four-Legged Woman. If four legs make animals quicker, could a human with four legs outpace them? Myrtle might have had an opinion. Dubbed the Four-Legged Woman in the late 1800s, she drew good attention for a condition called dipygus, where an underdeveloped twin fused during gestation, forming a second set of legs. Born in 1868, her parents saw an opportunity and introduced her to sideshow stages, claiming the proceeds would go toward her future. The extra limbs had 3 toes each and were so poorly aligned that normal walking wasn't possible. She relied entirely on her main legs for movement. Despite this, she became a popular act, performing with big-name outfits like Ringling Brothers and P.T. Barnum. In 1886, she married Dr. James Clinton Bicknell and started a family. When money ran tight, Myrtle returned to performing, not for fame, but to support her children. Her story wasn't one of pity. It was about a woman who lived and worked on her own terms. Number 5. Frank Richards. In the early 1900s, American strongman Frank Richards discovered a bizarre gift during his time in World War I. He could take brutal hits to the stomach without flinching. After the war, he joined vaudeville's comedy circuit, inviting strangers to punch him in the gut for money. The crowd loved it. When the punches started to feel too tame, Frank upped the ante. Heavyweight boxers, Jess Willard included, pounded his abdomen with full force. Still, Frank didn't budge. Then came volunteers jumping on him, 18-pound sledgehammers crashing into his core, and finally, his most infamous act, a 100-pound cannonball shot straight to the stomach. Somehow, he remained standing. There were no tricks, no illusions, just sheer bodily endurance. Richards stunned audiences with each performance, earning legendary status on the vaudeville stage. He wasn't selling pain, he was selling resilience. To this day, he's remembered not for fancy routines or stage theatrics, but for having a torso tougher than logic itself could explain. Number 4. Pablo Noel. In 1962, Pablo Noel stunned audiences in Hamburg, Germany with a stunt that would terrify even the boldest performers today. His act? placing his entire head inside the open mouth of a lion. No trick, no safety rig. Just inches from deadly fangs, Pablo relied on pure discipline, animal trust, and unshakable calm. This wasn't stage magic. It was the real deal. Mid-20th century circus acts were built on genuine danger, and Pablo's performance embodied that nerve. Spectators sat frozen, every second a gamble between poise and disaster. These weren't tame creatures, they were untamed predators. Pablo balanced fearlessness with control, walking the tightrope between adrenaline and annihilation. His performance became a lasting image of the circus's golden age, where daring wasn't manufactured. It was lived in real time. Pulling off a stunt like that wasn't just about bravery. It required total mastery over risk, instinct, and timing. Pablo Noel didn't just gamble with fear, he made it obey. Number 3, Ella Ewing. Ella Ewing, born in Missouri in 1872, experienced unusual growth during childhood that led her to surpass 8 feet in height. Diagnosed with gigantism, her towering frame came with health struggles, but also drew public fascination. Though her parents initially resisted the spotlight, they agreed to let her perform when financial hardship struck. By 18, Ella was appearing in museums and traveling circuses under the title The Missouri Giantess. She stood for hours at a time, welcoming audiences with a calm voice, refined posture, and gracious smile. Her stage presence was quiet, yet commanding. She dressed in custom-made gowns, wore enlarged shoes, and always carried herself with poise. Much of her income funded the construction of a house designed to fit her size, with raised ceilings and oversized doorways. Ella never married and rarely gave interviews, keeping her personal life shielded. She passed away in 1913 from health complications, but remains a symbol of strength, elegance, and grace beyond measure. Number 2, Jean Libera. Jean Libera, born in Rome in 1884, became famous as the man with the parasitic twin. Emerging from his chest was the partial form of a conjoined twin, featuring a small face, one arm, and a distorted torso. Though the twin had no consciousness, its human-like features made Jean both a medical marvel and a sideshow sensation. His condition, known as parasitic twinning, fascinated doctors and horrified crowds. But Jean never leaned into shock or pity. Instead, he toured Europe and the United States with quiet dignity, dressed immaculately, and known for his gentle demeanor. While scientists frequently asked to study him, Jean maintained his privacy. He wasn't there to be dissected. He was there to perform on his own terms. Although little is known about his personal life, Jean's legacy remains powerful. He represented one of the rarest physical conditions in sideshow history, handled with remarkable grace, presence, and self-respect in an era that rarely offered either to performers like him. Number 1, the Ape Woman. Julia Pastrana was no stranger to attention, but most of it came wrapped in cruelty. Born in Mexico in 1834, she had hypertrichosis, which caused her face and body to be covered in thick hair. Alongside that, gingival hyperplasia distorted her gums and face. These combined features led promoters to brand her as ape-like. She was marketed as the ape woman or baboon lady, drawing gawking crowds across the world. When brought to Europe, she was managed by Theodore Lent, a man who married her, though likely for control rather than love. After her death in 1860 due to childbirth complications, Lent had both Julia and their infant son embalmed and continued exhibiting their bodies for money. Her remains were displayed for decades, a grim postscript to an already tragic life. Only in 2013, after immense pressure and global petitions, was Julia finally returned home to Mexico. There, she was buried with proper rites, dignity, and the peace she was always denied. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for for more content like this. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you very soon.